Here's the present. These things flying around, they are already conscious AI. And now I'm going to say something, I got to be careful because I can't go in detail. I was shown classified military intelligence, so I'm not just talking theory. I'm talking about I have been shown things by a military, and I'm not going to say which, I'm not even saying it's U.S. military, am I? But I know that this happens to be a fact. Okay?
But tell us how it actually works for this craft itself. How does the craft function? You know, you explain how it works, but give us a sense of how, you know, what makes it maneuver. I mean, you explain.
Oh, okay. Well, no. What the craft is doing? Because, well, you have to look at my equations. You know, what the craft is doing, the technology. Okay, Einstein's field equation. What Einstein did in 1915 was, in a simplified way, to show how you could convert electromagnetic fields into gravity fields. The problem was that the coupling, the strength of interaction between electromagnetism and electric charges and gravity was very, very weak. In fact, the coupling turns out it's what's called reciprocal newtons. One over a newton is a unit of force. It's like 10 to the minus 43 reciprocal newtons is the coupling. Very small.
Very
number.
small, yes.
Very small.
Very small.
Everybody realized back even in the 1920s that in principle we could change the gravitational field with electromagnetism, and that would also mean we could travel in time, by the way. That's a whole other thing. See, time travel is just, if you can manipulate the gravity field, gravity is space-time, is the space-time field. So you can control gravity, it means you're controlling time. You can time travel. And this is, a whole thing we get into. Well understood. It's not, it's not science. This is just mathematics, standard application of mainstream physics that I'm saying. But the problem is that it took too much energy. See, if the coupling is very small, it means that the amount of energy density you need to do it is just, impossibly large. But what we're seeing is that these craft, they are manipulating the gravity field inside their little fuselages. And the fuselages are made out of what are called metamaterials, certain artificial materials, that we're now manufacturing in the lab. And so what they're doing, they're just...
tell us more about the metamaterials and what it enables. It's like basically artificial atoms, right?
They're artificial atoms in a lattice, but like in metasurfaces, like in a two-dimensional lattice, but they're layered, there's several layers. And what you pump in electromagnetic fields at certain frequencies, and what it does is what's called a resonance, makes a resonance, and it just increases the strength of that coupling. That's that S thing I had. Increase. In fact, there's a project at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory over here, Livermore, by a physicist named Michael G. Anderson, and he has what's called the warp reactor, and it's a hot fusion kind of thing. He has these beams of ions, and he collides two beams of ions together, and using my equation, where I'm able to connect the strength of the coupling to certain electromagnetic properties of this plasma. It's called the relative dielectric permittivity of the plasma. What he's able to do, he predicts, if my equation is right, the testing to see if I'm right, that what would happen is that you create a little warp bubble, with the two things smashed together. You'll create a little warp bubble in the gravitational field, in which the surface, the acceleration of gravity at the surface of this bubble is 16,000 Earth G. So 1 Earth G is like 10 meters per second squared, so 16,000 times that. It's not a black hole yet.
Right. Wow.
And this little warp bubble is about is 1/10 millionth of a cubic meter. So they haven't done it yet, because I think in order to do the experiment, he wants $250 million from. So I don't know if I talk to Donald Trump and Elon Musk and maybe persuade them to do it. So this is a proposal they have, but there's also another reason. That's just this machine, they want to build this machine. It's 60 feet by 30 feet. You know, it's a big reactor, fusion reactor. But other things they can do is they can test nuclear weapons. You know, there's all kinds. It's a nuclear weapons lab. Edward Teller. It's Edward Teller's lab. Yeah, he's dead now. But so that's one test of what I'm telling you about. You know, they have the detailed equations. But I have a much simpler way of doing it. I have a much simpler way of testing the idea. It's called the Cavendish experiment. This could be done very cheaply, you know, a couple $100,000 maybe. I think there's a certain laboratory in Torino in Italy. I was told they may want to do it, so we'll see. So I have another way of testing the basic idea of this. So the idea is that what we're actually seeing these machines flying around, and what they're doing, they're controlling the gravity field inside the metamaterial thin shell fuselages. They're controlling that gravity field with electromagnetic field. So you have some kind of like a Tesla battery or battery, or maybe it's cold fusion, or maybe it's just radioactivity. They may just have radioactive batteries, you know, uranium decay, and you know, you could just have decaying radioactive nuclei embedded inside the lattices. That'll provide enough energy, you know, to do it. It doesn't take that much energy, and so we're seeing it. It's technology that these drones that we're seeing, they're not really drones, you know. Some of them may be drones, but you know, all these weird things. They just saw something in China. Kim Burafata was just showing me, you could actually see a big craft, like right out of Independence Day. I don't know if it's real or not, but you know, there's stuff on X.com. So we understand it perfectly. I understand it perfectly, and a few people, I'm PhD, I'm working with a couple of PhD MIT engineers, you know, aeronautical engineers, very smart, and a couple of other PhD scientists.
Let me see if I can summarize it. So through the power of their consciousness, these beings are able to change or influence gravity within the craft through the metamaterials. Yeah. And
well, they are. Okay, the machine itself, the fuselage itself, is already a conscious artificial intelligence. It's a quantum mechanical computer. It's both simultaneously a propulsion system and the conscious control of that, you know, a super intelligence. It's computing on, you know, every nanosecond, or maybe maybe less than that, because it has to make these super computations very fast in order to change. You know, in other words, the gravity field that it's creating in different parts of the fuselage is different, and it's changing in time all the time. Oh, in fact, see, when you change gravity quickly, when you change the field in time, you can produce ionizing radiation. What's called the anti-gravity. If you see, if one of these drones, you know, over New Jersey, if you're in New Jersey, don't stand underneath a hovering drone, because you're going to get it's like being in an atomic bomb explosion. Well, not quite, but you could easily get radiation sickness from it. In fact, a guy named Travis Taylor, a physicist I know, who was at Skinwalker Ranch, he actually got sick, and people up at Skinwalker Ranch got sick because they stood underneath this cloaked drone or UFO, whatever, and they got what's called the anti-gravity blue shift. So we understand all that. There are no mysteries to any of this phenomenon.